Oh, yes. Well, here it is, boys. And at last, we find ourselves here. This is my very excited review for War for Cybertron Siege Titan class, Omega Supreme. You might notice that my setup's a little different than normal. However, OG followers of the channel might recognize this table as where I started out doing my reviews. Obviously, this guy's really big, a little too big for my current setup, so I got him set up out here. Excuse the echo. Just in an open kitchen right now. But I feel like it's the best location for what we gotta do today. So, this guy. Been waiting on him for quite a while. And, when I found out he was in stock at Big Bad Toy Store, I jumped on it, canceled my Amazon pre-order because that wasn't gonna come till like October, and I just really wanted to get this guy. And aside from a small shipping fee and tax, he was still, pretty much retail price. So, here it is. I have this massive, gorgeous box that Omega comes in. See this really great artwork done in the typical gritty Siege style. You have him just absolutely owning these Decepticons down here. This one looks like Brunt, though it looks like he's got some green on him, so I think it's more of a generic. I think it's all pretty much generics fighting him, more or less. You got the Tetrajets, and then here you have Jetfire, and he's pulled directly from his own box artwork, which on the flip side, focus on Jetfire with Omega in the background, so they're kind of a set. Unfortunately, I don't still have Jetfire's box, so I can't show you that today, but could always check out the review I did. Just saying. Yeah, really big, heavy box. On the front here, on the top, you've got the typical shot of the Autobots. It's actually my wallpaper on my laptop because I like it so much. Over here, picture of the Ark. This is just the same general Siege artwork that's on the side of all their boxes, pretty much. And then back here, you have our renders of the toy itself. We've got Omega in his base mode, as well as his robot mode. Shows off some of his features and everything. They actually call it the Autobot Command Center mode. And then you have his little partner he comes with, Countdown, who we'll talk about, a little bit more in depth later. He takes 37 steps to transform, which is pretty high for most of the Titan classes, like the actual Titan size ones, not the combiner guys, but a lot lower than some leader classes, so he's about midway through. Now, one thing you're going to notice when I do take this guy out and show him off is that his renders differ pretty significantly from the finished product, and from everything I've heard, that just seems to be due to some modifications they had to make to comply with safety standards, which, we'll see how that actually affects the overall appearance of the toy. So, to help tackle this big challenge, I decided to invite my son, who's been on here before, goes by the YouTube handle of Destroyer of Earth.
All caps, all spaces.
All caps, all spaces.
I'm just kidding.
So if you got little ones, you could always check his channel out. Typical kid stuff on there, Minecraft, Transformers. So he'll be helping out today. So if you know how my reviews go, we take a look at the packaging, which we've already done here. We'll open it up, see the inside, look at the instructions, break Omega down all his different modes, do a bunch of comparisons, group shots today because he's worth it. And at the end, I and Destroyer of Earth will give our final thoughts. So let's get started.
Okay, so this is the box.
That's the box.
Keep that in the video. Okay, so this is him out of the box, still in the package a little bit.
So yeah, this is the insert that he comes in. You see him nice and secured there to the cardboard. You got Countdown over here. You can see his Fire Blast accessories and little baggies there. And then this little top part is where you keep those track pieces. Possibly more, I'm not sure. And then here is the massive instruction booklet that he's got. This thing is huge, which is befitting for a toy size. You got the front part here. Is his render. He is number 29. I didn't really touch on that earlier, but that's a serial number. You got the breakdown of his three main weapons here. You have his claw, which is called the 300 TT Crusher Claw. I don't know what TT is. Maybe Takara Tomy? I don't know. The little cannon on the back of his head is called an HM laser cannon. And then his big cannon right here on his other arm is called the RT50M2 plasma blaster. And you can see their stats are almost completely maxed out on all of them. So they're really trying to give you a sense of how powerful this guy is. All right, the instructions here. First, they show you how to put him together out of the box in that little rectangle there. And then the transformation of his main body to the base mode, transforming his chest and head module to a little tank component, and then how to do the rocket as well. So that's cool. In the back, we have a short little blurb for Countdown's instructions. This part shows you how Countdown can like go inside the base and interact. This part shows you how Countdown can interact with the tank module and go inside of it. This shows, I guess, kind of like a weapon mode of sorts for him to attach to Omega's shoulder. We'll take a closer look at that because I'm honestly not sure what's going on there. Modified vehicle mode or something. And then it shows you how to attach and utilize his blast effects in different ways. And then, of course, it's not Siege without cross cells and a compatibility chart, so it just shows you that all the different Fire Blast, Micromasters, Battle Masters can work with this guy and attach to him. One thing the instructions don't show off, not too surprising, but his interactivity with other figures from other lines. He is a Titan. And ever since Fortress Maximus, they've made Titans compatible in a way to where they have connector parts where you can physically connect them together to other Titans, certain like Titans Return toys, and build these large bases or cities with them. So of course we're going to be looking at that. Another design consideration is that they made him to scale with the Combiner Wars Devastator toy. Because, you know, in the cartoon where he was introduced, he and Devastator had such a history together and they're rivals. So he's meant to be in scale with Devastator. Which does, honestly, put him a little bit on the shorter end. As far as Titans go, you're going to see he's a little bit shorter than the others. Except maybe Trypticon. But he's still massive. You know, they definitely didn't skimp on this guy. He, without even messing with him yet, he just looks more physically solid than, you know, say, Metroplex or Fort Max. All right, the mighty destroyer of Earth has bailed on this review as soon as his friends came over and wanted to play, so I guess he didn't want to be in this that badly. But we shall continue on without Mr. Quitter. So yeah, this is Omega, Countdown, the accessories out of the packaging. You see I've gone and attached Omega's wing track things there. And the way you do that, in case you're wondering, all right, you got these like rocket halves right here on his back. They're plugged in. You just pull them off, which they're in there pretty tightly, so get some carefully applied force. All right, they ought to be up off it like this. Now these tracks simply, they have these little pieces right here that are grooved, and they slide into these tracks that also have a groove toward the inside to help lock it into place. You just gotta make sure you get it in between like the backpack and his back. And you just push it in until it goes all the way, like so. And then you reattach the rocket halves and get, you see these little tabs right here, they go into these slots. And they are pretty tight fit, so you wanna make sure you're getting them in just right. Put any undue stress on your toy, you know. So we got one in here, and one in there. That locks everything in. So I don't have to worry about anything falling out or any of that stuff. Alright, so yeah. Alright, now Omega's Fire Blast accessories. The way they come packaged, you have just one large piece and then two small ones. And this large one breaks down into multiple sections. The end piece is actually another one of these guys. So you just take apart, was it I think 5 pieces in total? So you get that. And you can utilize these as fire blasts or explosion effects for you know, primarily Omega, but really any compatible figure, which is, you know, like the whole Siege line more or less. And he's got multiple points that these can attach to. He's got 5mm ports, so you put the like bigger connection points on like that. Simulate him getting shot. You can attach him here as like a little blaster. He's also got multiple small hard points, so you can act like he's getting shot again. So it gives you a lot of different options. And speaking of him getting shot, like most Siege figures, he does have battle damage painted on, though for him, it's much more subtle than a lot of the other figures. It's really just burn marks. And he's got one right here on each arm, one on the front of his shins, got a couple on the sides of his legs there. And then I think that's really it. Oh, and the backs of his forearms too. So I think this, you know, that's battle damage done right. It looks realistic. It doesn't really interfere with his, you know, appearance, break up his colors too much. And I think they're kind of learning, you know. I think through feedback they are realizing what works, what doesn't. You know, some people love the battle damage, some people hate it, and I think they're kind of meeting people in the middle, which is usually a good idea, right? Compromise, it's the way of the world. And then of course you've got a little countdown here. So he's got your standard amounts of articulation for a Siege or Micromaster. Ball jointed shoulder here, ball jointed hips, single bend knee like that. And that's really about it. Head doesn't turn. This can go up and down, but not really supposed to for his robot mode. It's supposed to just fold up against his back. And he's got a handle there for his little handheld mode that we'll see here shortly. All right, so the most commonly demonstrated configuration for Omega's Fire Blast is coming out of one of his arm appendages. So I've seen a lot of it like this. You take the whole combined thing, stick it right there in his claw. He can be firing out of that like so. Here you go. Or the one that makes a little more sense to me is putting it on his little laser cannon like this. You can really just mess up his enemies with this massive fiery blast from his cannon. Omega himself has a full range of articulation and just amazingly tight joints. So, I showed you kind of his elbow articulation. It's on a simple ratchet. Fairly tight, not too much, not too little. He does have a bicep swivel right there at that joint. His shoulders are on the usual hinge and swivel, but they're both ratcheted. And look, get a load of this. You hear that? That is crisp. So not only are the ratchets tight, but they have very fine teeth, so you get more precise adjustments. Big improvement over the old Metroplex and Fort Max molds, right? They had these very wide gaps in their ratcheting positions. Anyway, outward joint, softer than the swivel, but about as many little stopping points. All right, this little bit right here does spin freely. Goes in both directions. I'm not really sure the point of this, but it does kind of a natural stop too. Get it right, where is it? About there. Does have kind of a resting position. Must be a groove inside or something. This side, his little claw fingers are very articulated. The upper joint here is on a ratchet. Nice crisp click. It seems to ratchet more firmly in the inward direction outward. And then a simple hinge for actual like mid finger joint, but it is nice and tight. Huge improvement over older large figures. I mean, everything feels so crisp, so precise. Now his neck is interesting. It has several different joints running through it, and was actually kind of cause for a little bit of confusion on my part when I saw in-hand images of him. So as it is, it looks like it's on a simple, just 360 swivel, but you can kind of pull all this up And you can see he's got a more complex neck joint. It enables him to look up, look down a little bit. It gives him a little more wiggle room. It doesn't tilt much. You can get a small tilt out of it. Now, a lot of people just had it kind of like that, and it looked really weird. He had just this really gappy, skinny neck that didn't seem to show in the, renders or at the toy fair, so I thought it looked kind of silly. And I think they just kind of had it misposed. Like his head should rest pretty flush against his body, and then you just utilize that joint in either direction, have him look up, down, but shouldn't really have it extended all the way because it looks odd. So doing it this way makes him look a little more solid. His little head cannon thing, it flops a little bit, so it doesn't stay completely upright. It has a little more give than I would like, which is about the only QC issue I found on my guy so far. I don't even know if it's intentional or not. Now Omega's lower body has full articulation as well. He does have a waist swivel, which is on a nice, healthy ratchet. His legs also have excellent articulation. Pretty much what you would expect for modern, generations toy. So he's got the forward and back ratchet. That's out and in. And these are all really beefy ratchets. He's got thigh swivel right here. A little bit looser than the other two. That's fine. Got a knee bend. That inner detail that was needed. It's pretty cool, right? And cheap out there. So got that. And then he also has ratcheted ankle tilt, which is fantastic. So you want to pose him a little more dynamically. Boom. Now Omega is battle ready. And it holds very well. Much more so than the Metroplex, Fort Max. Especially because those guys didn't have ankle tilt. That being common in toys is actually a relatively new thing for Transformers. Now I mentioned Omega being pretty different from his promotional renders. And I wanted to touch on that real quick. And he is one of the most altered figures from their initial images of their prototypes that I've seen in quite a while. So the first thing everybody noticed when we got the pictures of the finalized product is his hip joints here look quite different from these right here. You can see his old hip joints, and this wasn't just in CGI renders, but the prototype that was shown off at the toy fairs and conventions and stuff looked like this guy. You can see they're stockier but beefier looking. I do believe, unless I'm mistaken, they would actually have made him a little bit shorter than he currently is. You can see his hips look a little more stretched out. So they did make these parts supposedly smaller, thinner, and they also, you can see, kind of like just took a chunk right out of here. They should have remolded this part and made it cut off at an angle rather than just being straight. From what I heard, this was all done because the prototype was failing drop tests, which is part of the American standard for like toy safety tests and all that. So I'm guessing that had a lot to do with it. And then I think they might have also made some of the changes just to make him a little bit taller, because they were initially claiming he was 2 feet tall, which he's not. I think they're trying to get him a little bit closer to that number, so they weren't accused of like false advertising or anything. I also believe, I could be mistaken, that they also kind of took a chunk out of his upper arms here. You see he had a bit of a dip, but it doesn't look nearly as pronounced as in the final product. I'm pretty sure I'm not wrong about that. Had some people argue the point with me, but I think they did. I'm not entirely sure why they did. Might have been for safety, might have been for functional reasons, safety, who knows. And then the last big difference, and a lot of G1 purists are not happy about it, is Omega's eyes are done in like an orange color, a translucent orange, whereas the prototype, the initial images, had them as that baby blue color that he and virtually all Autobots had in the original cartoon series. That one, I don't know why they changed it. Honestly, that bothers me more than any of the other changes because it just looks better. Like, cartoon accuracy or not, it makes his eyes show through his little, yellowish orange visor a little more. So I don't know why that change was made. Could have been a cost thing, who knows. All right, now it's time for the transformation. So, first thing I do, we start this backside. We're gonna unlatch those little pocket halves again. Get them loose. Pull the tracks out of their tracks. And then this whole piece right here, arms and stuff, is just gonna pull right out. And this is gonna become his rocket. Go ahead, push the little tank turret thing on his head down. And we turn him around like so. We take his abdominal area here, pull it down, because it untabs. Lift his little missile launcher cover things up. Oh yeah, by the way, it's got missile launchers under there. But you could use those in robot mode, I suppose. You're gonna pull this main chest and head section just straight out. Like this. That's gonna become pretty much the tank. Alright, close this part back up. I'm gonna turn his waist 180. Sound of that beautiful ratchet. Right now he's got a little black panel here, see, between his legs. You're gonna flip that all the way out, like so. Turn him around. He's got these panels that wrap around the back and inside of his thighs. We're gonna detach them, kind of straighten them out a little, get them out of the way. Like that. All right, now you're just gonna make him do a straight split. So bring each leg all the way up. As far as it actually goes there. Just like that. Set down. These become little ramps. In case you weren't sure what those panels were for. And next, you're gonna bend his knees at a straight 90 degrees. So they're pointing just forward. Same thing on this side. Like that. Flip this part down. Lights are getting a little low as the sun goes down. I think we need to hurry up, huh? Alright, so the next thing we do, we're gonna take his little tracks, separate them, open them up. They're kind of just tabbed together lightly. You just put them flat like that. You got this one piece sticking up. A little like stanchion. Do the same thing with these. Forms one half of the track. We do the same here. Just open it up. Oop. That up. Just like that. Now I don't think it matters which track goes on what side of him, but I'm gonna do it the way the instructions have it. So you have this one going on the front. You can tell because this gray piece points to the left. And you're going to connect it to basically his ankles. Using these connectors that are not dissimilar to the old connecting ports on other Titans. And don't worry, you'll see why that is. So just get it on there, plugs all in nice and firm. Do it on the back side here. Boom. There is the main base completed. All right, next thing I'm gonna do is transform his chest and head into the tank. So first thing you do is you're gonna take this whole ab section, flip it down. It's in there pretty good, so give it some good force. It does worry me because it's all painted, but yeah, just be careful. And then this part, forms his chest. It's going to flip up to reveal a tank turret, not dissimilar to the one on the back of his head. All right, then you're going to take these pieces right here, kind of lift up, become little arm-like appendages that'll form cannons. And you're going to flip this back in. Push it back till it snaps back into place, like so. All right, we're going to straighten these out, kind of click into place. Become little cannons. Take the turret, flip around 180, move this up out of the way, and then you're going to detach this bottom part here. And plugs in this area. I'm just going to bring it all the way up to form the back of the treads. So make sure you get that back piece out of the way. And we'll just plug in nice and securely. Now here, it'll more or less go into place on its own from the transformation, but you push this section up, which presses his face into this tank turret to hide it, like that. And you just bring these down, and then this is the tank. You see it's got these two large wheels to roll on there. The turret cannot turn because it's got Omega's head plugged into it. The cannon, the gun barrel does lift up and down though. And for anyone confused, because they're used to the original toy, Omega's head was the turret just by itself. It didn't require any kind of extra accessory on there. The problem with that is, gave him some odd proportions in robot mode, because this was the tank turret right here. So that part was much bigger in comparison to his body on the original toy, kind of gave him a big goofy head. So they decided to make this a little more practical this time around. It doesn't help that, so the original toy didn't actually have a face. It was just like an orange visor and that was it. With him having a very visible face, it would look kind of odd just sticking off the back of a tank turret. So aesthetically, I think it looks better, though it does, again, rob this of its ability to turn while in this mode. So, compromises were made. These are, nominally pointed forward, but they can go up, take aim at things. And yep, that's the tank. And the tank, these little wheel things are designed to ride on this track. Kind of keep it what's going on here. Could be smoother, I won't lie. It's not so great, but it works. All right, and the last part of the transformation is the arms to rocket. So you straighten the elbows out, bring the arms all the way up like this. Everything nice and straight, like so. Then, bringing this up, you're gonna rotate these halves where they don't really plug in firmly, but where they mesh together. And you got these little panels right here that fold out. So I'm gonna do that. It'll, wrap around the main body of the rocket. The arms will contract like so. Bring this piece around, and it's kind of on multiple hinges. So you have to get it to kind of collapse down to where it lines up. There we go. You'll know when you get it. Everything will kind of close up on everything here. It all just kind of tabs in. Fold these panels down the way that they plug in properly. And just kind of make sure it's all nice and solid. Make sure everything slotted in the way it was supposed to. And there. Kind of straighten that out. Get it to where it can sit nice and level, like that. And then the default placement of this thing is just right inside, like within the tracks here. So you can go ahead and kind of put it in there. Yeah, tank on. However you want to set it up. And there's the completed base. Got the main body of it. It's got the track and kind of just like the headquarters of the battle station. You got the tank that cruises around and guards it, and then you have the rocket that can blast off from there. So in terms of play sets, I mean, I think Omega's got all the other Titans just blown out of the water. I think this thing is just the most fun, looks the most like an actual base out of all of them. I mean, I gotta give props to the design team for this, because this thing's beautiful. It really is. I guess these are supposed to be put back in like more horizontal position. There you go. But yeah, I mean, when you look at this compared to the other Titans, who really just like they look like they just kind of lied down and unfolded, more or less. This looks like a proper transformation. And again, it just looks gorgeous. You've got 3 separate components that you can move around, interact with however you want them to. Of course, you can't forget about old Countdown here. Let's go ahead and transform him real quick. He's very simple, very easy. You just flip that up, and fold his arms back, and they'll tab in right here. And then his feet, you just fold, and they plug in to this little slot right here. Just kind of press all the way down, and voila. He's like a little moon rover vehicle right there. For anyone that's not familiar with Countdown, he did not originally come with Omega Supreme back in the G1 toy line. He came with, he was part of a Micromaster base, and it was like a little rocket base, which is why he's a space vehicle. Boy, this thing does not want to focus. Thank you. So they kind of transplanted him from that because they're not doing Micromaster bases, at least not yet. But it is fitting because Omega himself is a launch base. So naturally this guy works really well for it. He can just cruise around however he wants to on this little track. He can man different parts of the base. And naturally, Omega's base mode is designed to work with his fire blast effects. So, you know, you can do a lot with it. You have his tank using them, you know, shooting things, maybe going with smaller fire blasts for that. Right, so you have that option there. You can use some of these and plug them into his little hard points and ports all around, whether that's on the track or maybe right here, simulate some blaster fire. Heck, you can even have it go right here on the side of the turret if you want to. Another thing you can do is take a cue from Jetfire. Go ahead and plug this thing in the bottom of his rocket, make it look like he's blasting off. Though this would obviously require some sort of support. You have to like hang this thing up from a wire or something, but doable. I think very much intentional. Now Countdown, and by extension other Micromasters, have multiple ways to interact with this whole base. One thing you can do is open this part back up, and it becomes kind of like a little station for them to hang out in to deploy from. So you can store them inside of that if they fit, which is nice. Omega Shins also open up for a little storage space, so you can have these guys docking or hiding in there. And obviously, you know, it works on both sides. So, Countdown also has this weird third mode that I mentioned, and I still can't figure out kind of the point of this, but basically you untab these feet a little bit, pull them out like an angle. I don't know if you're supposed to pull them all the way out. It's not really clear. Then you like push his arms forward, and then you flip out that little peg on his chest, which thankfully is not difficult to pull out, unlike a lot of other Micromasters and stuff. And I don't know, that's it. That's what it does. And then you can peg him into different parts of Omega. The instructions show you to do it on his shoulder, but really anywhere works. Oops. It's a short peg. It won't go in very far. It doesn't really need to. So I don't know what this is all about. It's supposed to be some kind of third weapon mode, like all the Micromasters have. Maybe, though it doesn't. I mean, it's just his vehicle mode with his arms pointing a little more forward than usual. So I don't know what it's supposed to be. I guess these are supposed to be guns or something, but it's really weird. I wonder if the instructions are wrong and there's a better way to transform them or something, because it doesn't make much sense to me. Additionally, Omega's rocket comes with a little hidden compartment near the the top of it. Flip this down, put that out, and you can see there's like a little cockpit area in there, a little command module, which is really cool. Like that they molded that in there, and it's meant for Countdown or any other MicroMaster to just kind of step inside and man and control the rocket. Of course, you can close them up in there, and yeah, I mean that's really cool. So those are a really nice touch. Now I mentioned the connectors on Omega's tracks here, and they are the same type used by the Fortress Maximus and Trypticon molds, as well as the Titan's Return leader toys, to allow you to connect them together and make large bases or cities. So he obviously has them here on each end of each track. And then, interestingly, they're also present on the little ramps. So if they don't work really well as is, but if you pose them differently, spread the legs out, you could utilize those ramps to connect into things too. So, they're obviously meant for him to connect to other Titans, other figures. Interestingly, when John Warden, the head of their design team, when he was showcasing this, he kind of dropped a hint. I don't know, intentional or not, but he was saying that these tracks can be repositioned to where you can build up and create larger Omega configuration. I forget the exact wording, but more or less implying that you either would buy multiple Omega Supremes, which seems less likely, or maybe, hopefully, we'll get Omega Sentinels down the road, which would just be, I would imagine a blue redeco of this toy, just like the original Omega Sentinels were, which if that's the case, that'd be awesome, because there's technically multiple Sentinels, so if you got really deep pockets, you could troop build with them and, make kind of this large Omega Sentinel structure or fortress with, Supreme being in the middle. So time will tell if that ever comes to fruition. I honestly had thought and hoped that the Sentinel might be the Comic-Con exclusive for this year, but that wasn't the case. Right, and because I am a glutton for punishment and wanted this review to literally take me all day, I decided to go ahead, break out all the Titans in their city forms, all of the Titans Return leaders, everyone that can connect to this, and then kind of cheated a little bit because not all these actually connect, but thematically they work. And yeah, made a big old Transformer city. Honestly, not crazy about the way it turned out. It's kind of just amoeba, but you know what? This will work for now. So yeah, get a load of this. All these connections going from figure to figure, making almost a complete kind of loop back around to Omega, except for, again, kind of cheated because Metroplex doesn't connect. I did want to make a correction to something I was saying earlier. I was saying that these bits are the same connections that the Titans have. That's not true. These are unique to the tracks themselves. So, I stand corrected. The actual connection ports for other figures are on the two ends of the tracks there, like the curves. So, my apologies. Kind of messed that up. So, I just really wanted to show you guys, give you guys an idea of what all you can do with this, and also make my wife question my sanity. But hey, she's got a clean kitchen floor now, so she can't complain too much. So yeah, there's, just almost an infinite number of possibilities that you can pull off with these connections. Different shapes, however you want to do it. Hopefully, in, the next few years, we'll get some new Titans to flesh this out a little bit more. Bank it on Scorponok, maybe Omega Sentinels, so you can get a little crazy with the tracks and everything. But, time will have to tell with that one. we're really lucky, I'd love to see this. They would make Metro Titan from Metroplex, his like Decepticon counterpart, and retool him a little bit to actually have those little connecting ramps there. I think that would be pretty awesome, pretty nice. Oh yeah, and one thing I forgot to mention, Omega's got these little black panels on the side of his legs. You can pull out. Alright, so I was managed to get this thing pulled loose. It's very tight on my copy. It's more of these connection points. So that does give you the option of running his tracks kind of out to the side instead of that way. So again, one more way that you can just really have fun with this and make it your own. All right, and here's Omega right next to his rival Devastator, just so you can see the height difference between the two. And believe it or not, if you do follow the original, animated cartoon, it's pretty dead on. They've always been roughly the same size, but Omega's always been about a head and shoulders taller than Devastator. So they really nailed the height difference, which is impressive, right? Because he scales well with Devastator, who being a combiner is obviously smaller than a Titan or a Citybot, but also manages to scale pretty well with the other Titans, like we'll see here shortly. So he kind of hits that really nice sweet spot in the middle where he's a little short for a Titan, a little tall for Devastator, but both within the realm of acceptability. At least I think so. Depending on the media you consume, these Citybots vary in size wildly as it is. I mean, I think in some of the comics, Omega was drawn to be like the size of a regular Transformer, and then in other ones, he's absolutely massive and could just step on a regular sized Transformer and scrape him off his foot, And here's just me having a little bit of fun with them, playing with my toys like every grown man should. Just watching them. It's a little bit of a grappling match here where Omega's just overpowering Devastator, as it should be. And, these guys, they're going to be great. They're going to be awesome for having any kind of setup battle scene you want between them. The scale is just right on point with Devastator kind of Omega coming off as like the bully in this regard, or, I guess the righteous bully, something. But yeah, I love the interaction that these two can pull off. All right, here's a good look at the Titans proper. All of the big city formers we have so far, both domestic and international releases. And as the years go by and they keep adding new Titans to the mix with their own molds, you see a lot more variation. When it came to Metroplex and Fort Max, there was a lot of sameness going on because they shared a lot of parts. If you don't know, Fortress Maximus, Brave Maximus are retools of Metroplex. And then Trypticon was the first time that they made a new Titan from scratch. And you can tell just by looking at him as far as the engineering, the articulation, that he is a few years, newer than, I guess, what you call the old model. And now you fast forward even more years and they've perfected it even more. Visually, I'd say Trypticon and Omega are pretty on par with each other as far as surface detailing and all that, articulation. But I think they learned from their mistakes with Trypticon as far as joint tightness, the ratcheting and all that. Because if you don't already know, many copies of Trypticon were plagued with issues with their hip joints breaking and all that. And then even if you're lucky enough not to have one break, they're a bit loose, honestly. Like, they feel solid until he needs to bear some weight like he's doing right now, and then he's a little floppier. Omega does not have that issue. Like I already said, his joints are extremely tight, very solid. Haven't seen any reports of any breakage yet, and he's been out internationally for a little while now, so I'm gonna guess it's not gonna be a widespread issue if it does happen to anyone. But yeah, it is just really cool seeing these characters together. I'm looking forward to the seemingly inevitable release of Scorponok to really just finish off all of the G1, main Titans there. Extra points if Takara wants to go ahead and retool that into Black Zarek, because I promise you I will gobble that up too. So it is cool. I mean, it's taken some years, longer than it took the first time for us to get all the Titans. But it is coming together eventually. You know, patience is paid off, and those that have been sticking around with generations since it rebranded as Thrilling 30 back in, was it 2013, I believe? You know, it's gotten more and more exciting as time goes on. We've gotten a lot of returning characters, you know, new figures of those characters that I don't think a decade ago we would have dreamed of. So, pretty amazing time to be a collector. All right, and just to keep the fun rolling, here's a good look at every Titan class character that's been made so far, including the Combiners. You know, the Combiners are kind of Titan in name only. It's based on price point, but they're still impressive. They still scale with these characters pretty well when you consider kind of how they scaled against each other in the cartoons and stuff. You know, early media, the city formers, the Titans, weren't actually city-sized. They were just bigger than average Transformers. But yeah, you can see all sorts of different heights going on. Basically, you've got the Metroplex and Maximus is in the back, being the tallest, about 2 feet. And then Trypticon and Omega are a little bit shorter. And then your two Combiners coming at the shortest is about 18 inches each. So there is quite a bit of variation in the height, but it does help if you ever want to display them together, because you can have them all showing and see all their faces, not have any of them just completely blocked out if they're standing level with each other.
Hi.
So, as you can see, my son decided to join us again. So as we wrap up this review, it was a long one. I had a lot of fun. I had an excuse to fill my entire dining room with toys and annoy the missus a little bit, so good for some mischief. So yeah, this thing really is a labor of love. I don't know, final thoughts. What do you think, Mr. Destroyer of the Earth? What do you think of this figure, this toy?
I think it's pretty cool. Like the
Expert opinion.
Like the missile form, it looks like.
You mean the rocket?
I mean, yeah, the rocket looks amazing. It looks like a missile. It literally does.
It'd be a shame if it were a missile though, because first time you use it, he doesn't have arms anymore.
Yeah.
Like, well, there goes my arms. All right, so what do you think? Think he's awesome? Think he was worth all the hype?
I think it was worth all the hype.
You do? All right. Well, I agree with you. In fact, I would go so far as to say this is, having owned it all of today, this is one of my favorite Transformers of all time. Like, hands down, this toy is so much fun. It's just, they knocked it out of the park. All the tolerances are spot on. Again, maybe the only lacking bit is his little head cannon being slightly droopy. But, I mean, aside from that, the Micromaster that comes with Countdown is really cool. I love the molding on this guy. Very detailed for such a small little character. And I dig him. I just wish I knew what the heck his third mode was supposed to be. Luckily, it can be easily ignored, like all those terrible Micromaster weapon modes. But yeah, this guy should be, let's say, hitting shelves, because you probably won't here in the States, but he'll be showing up at online retailers in bulk pretty soon. You know, Big Bad Toy Store already has them. Amazon's set to get them beginning of October. And then the other collector sites should have them shortly. And then I'm sure Pulse will follow eventually. So yeah, pick this guy up. He is, when I say he's worth it, I mean like he's more worth it than any other Titan class so far, I think. I have zero complaints with this guy. And anything you want to add before we wrap this up?
Yeah,
Okay, we're running out of time.
I love the effects, like that.
Yeah? Those are really cool, right?
Yeah, like it'd be amazing for a stop motion.
Yeah, I mean, this thing does lend itself really well to dioramas or little stop motion videos. Yep. Absolutely. All right, so you've heard how we feel about this toy. Obviously, pretty much all good. We'd love to know what you all think in the comments section. So feel free to give any feedback on the toy, the review. If you enjoyed this review, make sure to toss it a thumbs up.
Go see my channel, Destroyer of Earth.
You gotta see Destroyer of Earth's channel, or you know you're gonna hurt his feelings. See, he's whimpering now. Shame on you. If you want to see more reviews like this on my channel, make sure to subscribe down below and hit the notification bell so you always get notified when I post something new. We thank you for joining us at this really awesome look at an amazing figure. I mean, it even gets a thumbs up from my son, so I can't argue with that. But with all that said, we will see you
Next time.